Welcome to Malice and Mystery, where shadows whisper and the unknown beckons. Step into a realm of spine-tingling horror, eerie mysteries, and chilling tales. From real-life paranormal encounters to unsolved enigmas and spine-chilling urban legends, we bring you the darkest stories from the shadows. Subscribe if you dare, and remember, some mysteries are better left unsolved. Horrifying stories from lighthouse keepers. The isolation of Black Rock Lighthouse, perched 3 miles off the coast of Maine. Black Rock Lighthouse stood as a lone sentinel against the Atlantic's fury. Its black granite walls rose unnaturally straight from the water, culminating in a disproportionately large lantern room. Built in 1892, the lighthouse earned its ominous name not just from its dark stone, but from the numerous ships that had foundered. On the treacherous rocks before its construction, the isolation was absolute. Winter storms made the structure shudder, while thick fog banks could envelop the island for weeks. Supplies arrived bi-weekly by boat, weather permitting, and communication was limited to a temperamental radio system. The nearest human habitation, the fishing village of Port Mercy, lay beyond the horizon. 3 keepers maintained the light in rotating shifts, each spending 28 days on station. Living quarters consisted of 3 Spartan rooms carved into the rock below the main tower, connected by narrow spiral staircases. A single generator powered the light and provided minimal electricity, but power failures were common during storms. Black Rock's reputation was unique among lighthouses. Mariners spoke of strange lights dancing across the water and ghost ships appearing in the fog. While most dismissed these tales as superstition, the keepers knew better. They experienced the peculiar atmosphere and oppressive presence that seemed to watch and wait, particularly during long nights when the foghorn's mournful wail was the only sound breaking the silence. The first night's warning, Thomas Whitaker arrived at Black Rock on a crisp October afternoon for his 3rd rotation as assistant keeper. The motor launch from Port Mercy had struggled through choppy seas, and he stepped onto the landing platform with relief, though the familiar unease of the place settled over him immediately. The air carried a peculiar metallic temps mixed with salt spray, and something indefinable yet wrong. As he ascended the worn stone steps, he noticed fresh scratches on the heavy oak door, deep gouges that weren't there during his last rotation. Inside, the musty smell of damp stone and old wood greeted him, but another odor lingered, faintly organic like decaying seaweed, yet sharper and more pungent. His predecessor, Old Man Hargrove, shuffled down the spiral staircase, his face pale and drawn. "You're late," Hargrove rasped with desperation. "Things have been different this month." He pressed a trembling leather-bound journal into Thomas's hands. "Read this, all of it, before you settle in." The journal contained disturbing entries from the past 3 weeks. On October 3rd, Hargrove noted strange rhythmic tapping sounds from the walls. By the 7th, he described finding small handprints with too many fingers on the lantern room windows. The entry for October 12th sent chills through Thomas. They're learning. Whatever they are, they're getting smarter. The patterns change when I'm watching. It's like they know. As Hargrove prepared to leave, he gripped Thomas's arm urgently. "Don't trust the light. It's not just guiding ships anymore. And don't go near the western storage room after dark." Before Thomas could question him, the motor launch's horn sounded, and Hargrove fled, leaving hurried footprints on the stone floor. The first night passed without incident, but Thomas couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The lantern room, usually comforting, now seemed oppressive, its lens distorting the moonlight in unsettling ways. Around midnight, he heard a soft, wet slithering sound from below, followed by clicking, reminiscent of insects. The noise echoed through the walls, impossible to pinpoint. In the dim glow of his flashlight, Thomas examined the western storage room's door. The heavy iron bolt was rusted shut and covered in grime. Faint marks etched into the stone around the doorframe caught his attention, symbols that did not match any language he knew. They seemed to pulse faintly in his peripheral vision, vanishing when focused on directly. The air around the door felt colder, heavier, and carried that same sharp, organic smell. Returning to the control room, Thomas found the main logbook open to a page he hadn't touched. Fresh ink spelled out a single sentence in unfamiliar handwriting. "They come when the light goes out." The pen lay beside it, still wet. Heart pounding, he checked the security cameras in the lower levels. Static filled the monitors, except for one showing the western storage room corridor. In the grainy image, a dark shape moved at the edge of the frame, flowing rather than walking, leaving no reflection in the polished floor. The patterns in the dark by the second week, the phenomena became too blatant to ignore. The clicking sounds evolved into intricate sequences, reminiscent of Morse code, but without any identifiable pattern. Thomas began obsessively documenting them, filling pages with precise timings and intervals. The patterns changed subtly every night, always just out of reach of comprehension, until he realized they weren't random at all. They were counting. Counting down. The handprints returned, now accompanied by other marks. Long streaks, as if something had dragged itself along the walls. Left trails of moisture with a distinct scent of brine and metal. More unsettling were the fingerprints themselves, varying wildly in size and number of digits. Some tiny and delicate, others enormous, with up to 7 or 8 impressions. The most disturbing aspect was how fresh they always appeared, regardless of when he found them. The western storage room became the epicenter of activity. The slithering sounds grew louder, sometimes accompanied by what sounded like breathing deep, wet inhalations that caused the corridor's temperature to drop dramatically. Thomas installed motion detectors outside the door, but they registered nothing despite clear evidence of movement. The security camera continued to show static-filled images, set for brief moments when dark shapes flickered across the screen, moving in ways that defied physics, flowing like liquid darkness, stretching impossibly long before snapping back into compact forms. Each night, the main beacon seemed to grow brighter, casting shadows that danced with unnatural life. The reflections in the lantern room windows showed more than just his own figure, fleeting glimpses of other shapes standing just behind him, visible only in the glass. When he turned quickly, they vanished, leaving only the cold certainty that something had been there. The light itself began to pulse occasionally, matching the rhythm of the clicking sounds, as if responding to them. Thomas started sleeping in short bursts, waking frequently to check the monitors and document new phenomena. His notes revealed a chilling pattern. The manifestations intensified during periods of heavy fog, particularly when ships were navigating nearby waters. The radio logs showed numerous distress calls, cut off mid-transmission, always originating from vessels attempting to use Black Rock as a navigational marker. Each time, the clicking patterns accelerated, becoming frantic before falling silent just as the distress signals ended. The symbols around the storage room door multiplied, spreading along the corridor walls in intricate patterns that seemed to shift when observed directly. They pulsed with a faint bioluminescent glow during the darkest hours of night, casting the hallway in an eerie greenish light. Thomas discovered that photographing them resulted in blank images, as if the camera refused to capture their existence. Yet, when he developed the film under red light, the symbols appeared clearly but arranged differently than he remembered, forming words in languages he couldn't read, but that made his skin crawl with recognition. Most terrifying were the changes in the structure itself. The spiral staircases seemed to alter slightly each day, steps becoming narrower or wider, landings shifting position. Rooms appeared smaller or larger depending on the time of day, and the distances between familiar points varied unpredictably. The generator room, once straightforward, now required careful navigation through twisting passages that hadn't existed before. These changes always occurred gradually, almost imperceptibly. Until one morning, Thomas woke to find himself completely disoriented in what should have been the familiar confines of his quarters. The breakdown 3 weeks in, sleep became a distant memory for Thomas. His eyes, burdened by the strain, bore dark circles like badges of exhaustion. Meals were hurried, affairs cold canned food gulped down while standing, often interrupted by unsettling noises that sent him reaching for his flashlight. The perpetual state of alertness was fraying his nerves. Each creak of the old structure, each shift in the shadows triggered his fight-or-flight instincts. He found himself speaking out loud to break the oppressive silence, his voice echoing eerily through the ever-changing corridors. Thomas's meticulous documentation began to falter. His journals, once orderly, now had notes scribbled in a shaky hand, with some written in languages unknown to him upon waking. Pages vanished overnight, only to reappear days later with new, unfamiliar script added. The security monitors displayed increasingly alarming images, his own reflection, distorted. Faces peering from windows where there should be none. Dark shapes growing more defined, almost human-like in their movements. Isolation gnawed at Thomas's sanity. Radio communications with the mainland became sporadic, filled with static and cryptic warnings he couldn't quite decipher. The automated weather reports seemed to carry hidden messages in their mechanical voices. During a particularly violent storm, he thought he heard his mother's voice calling his name through the foghorn's blast, despite her having died 15 years earlier. He spent hours staring at the radio receiver, willing it to speak again, until tears streamed down his face. Paranoia took root in his mind like a cancer. Every handprint on the windows seemed to taunt him. Every click from unseen creatures felt like a personal message. He began to see figures in his peripheral vision, tall, gaunt shapes with too many limbs. Their features obscured, but their intentions clear in the way they lingered just out of reach. The children's voices were the worst, echoing through the halls at night. Singing nursery rhymes in perfect harmony, always ending with the same chilling refrain, "Come to the light." His daily routines turned into survival rituals. He marked doorways and windows with salt lines, though they vanished overnight. Crucifixes hung from every available surface, tarnishing rapidly despite the dry environment. He carried a flashlight everywhere, even to the bathroom, convinced that the darkness harbored more than just fear. The western storage room door remained sealed. Yet he felt its presence like a malignant tumor at the heart of the building, throbbing with malevolent energy. The breakdown started subtly. Thomas found himself talking to empty air, responding to questions no one had asked. His reflection in mirrors seemed delayed, mimicking his movements a split second too late. Objects shifted when he wasn't looking, tools rearranged. Books opened 2 pages marked with symbols akin to those in the corridor. Then came the hallucinations. Walls seeping seawater, stairs ascending to impossible heights. And the pervasive sensation of being watched by countless eyes from within the very stones. On the 21st day, Thomas discovered his own handwriting in the main logbook, dated 3 days in the future. The entry detailed events yet to occur: a massive storm, the generator's failure, and something breaking through the western storage room door. The final line read, "The light isn't protecting us, it's calling them." Beneath it, in blood-red ink that hadn't been there before, someone had scrawled, "Run while you still can." The final revelation: the storm struck with ferocity on the 24th night, shaking the very fabric of reality. Waves slammed against Black Rock with apocalyptic force, their thunderous impacts dislodging stones from the ancient structure. As predicted, the generator failed, plunging the lighthouse into darkness, save for the feeble glow of emergency lights. Thomas huddled in the control room, clutching a flare gun and listening to the chaos outside. The clicking patterns had reached a fever pitch, intertwining in complex harmonies that vibrated through the walls like a living entity. Then came the dreaded sound, the groan of metal yielding under tremendous pressure. The western storage room door had given way. From the corridor, a sound unlike anything he'd ever heard emerged. A chorus of voices speaking simultaneously in dozens of languages. perfectly synchronized despite their differences. The air grew thick and heavy, carrying the stench of salt water and something far older. Something that churned his stomach with primal revulsion. The emergency lights flickered and died, leaving only the main beacon operational. Its beam cut through the darkness in sweeping arcs, revealing the corridor outside the control room. What it illuminated froze Thomas's blood. Figures emerged from the shadows. Dozens, perhaps hundreds, packed tightly together like sardines. Their forms shifted constantly, never settling on a single shape. But certain features remained consistent. Too many limbs, eyes glowing with internal light, mouths stretching impossibly wide to emit those terrible clicking sounds. They moved toward him with purpose, flowing rather than walking, their bodies occupying multiple spaces at once. As they passed under the light, their true nature became horrifyingly clear. These weren't separate entities, but parts of a single, massive organism, a colonial intelligence that had been using the lighthouse as a beacon to call its components home. The handprints, symbols, and patterns all were pieces of a cosmic puzzle, a signal broadcast across dimensions to gather its scattered parts. The realization struck him with devastating clarity. The lighthouse wasn't warning ships away from danger. It was drawing them in. Every vessel lost to the rocks had fed this entity. Every soul claimed adding to its collective consciousness. The children's voices, the nursery rhymes, echoes of past victims, their minds absorbed but not entirely consumed, trapped forever in this nightmare dimension. Thomas backed away from the advancing horde, his mind racing. The journal entries, countdown, warnings. They all made sense now. This wasn't just an invasion, it was a birth. The entity was reaching critical mass, preparing to break through fully into our reality. The main beacon pulsed in time with its heartbeat, growing brighter with each passing second. Outside, the storm intensified, lightning strikes converging on the lighthouse like divine judgment. He remembered Hargrove's final warning, "Don't trust the light." With shaking hands, he approached the control panel. The entity surged forward, sensing his intent. Its components detached and reattached at blinding speeds, creating grotesque parodies of human faces in their midst. Thomas's finger hovered over the master switch. Turning off the light meant certain death. The entity would consume him instantly in darkness. But leaving it on would allow it to complete its transformation, unleashing something far worse upon the world. The choice was no choice at all. As the entity's advance forced him against the wall, he threw the switch. Darkness swallowed everything. Epilogue: The Keeper's legacy weeks after the inexplicable darkening of Black Rock Lighthouse. A Coast Guard vessel ventured to investigate. What they discovered was unfathomable. The western wing had crumbled into the ocean, erasing the storage room and its hidden truths. Inside the ruins, they found Thomas Whitaker's lifeless body in the control room, his face locked in a visage of terror that would haunt the rescuers for years. In his hand was a final, tremulous journal entry. "They're not gone." The light was both their prison and their portal. "Now they're scattered across the darkness. The clicking echoes in my mind, growing louder each day. If you're reading this, turning off the light was both salvation and damnation." The entity is fragmented, its consciousness splintered across the ocean depths. But fragments can reunite. Watch the waters. Listen for the patterns. They're still calling to each other. The lighthouse was soon decommissioned, replaced by a new structure built miles away on safer ground. Yet mariners continued to report eerie phenomena near Black Rock Lights that defied logic. Mysterious interference on their radios, and an inexplicable urge to avoid the area. Those who ignored these warnings spoke of hearing children's songs on the wind and seeing impossible shapes beneath the waves. Thomas Whitaker's sacrifice had bought humanity time, but at a dreadful price. The entity lingered, its consciousness fractured but not destroyed, waiting for another beacon to reunite its pieces. The clicking patterns spread, appearing in unexpected places: sonar readings, whale songs, even human brainwaves. Scientists dismiss these patterns as coincidences, unable to grasp the cosmic horror lurking beneath the waves. Black Rock remains a monument to the thin veil between worlds, a testament to humanity's hubris in thinking we could master the unknown. The true nature of what Thomas faced might never be fully understood, but his final act stands as a warning. Some lights should stay unlit, some doors forever sealed. For in the darkness beyond our comprehension, things wait, patient, hungry, and eternal. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales of the mysterious. Until next time, stay curious and stay cautious.